What's up, everybody? Just getting this thing geared up. Going to talk some Rangers, got some updates here, and we'll take your questions. Doing this both on Facebook Live at the 105.3 The Fan Facebook page and on YouTube. So whichever version works best for you, we'd just love to have you as a part of the conversation. So, again, any questions you have, feel free to share them. Let's just start with some updates here. Earlier today, Chris Woodward suggested that, probably able to see Willie Calhoun before the season comes to an end, likely, maybe next week, maybe not in the field, likely not is an option defensively, but someone who could maybe come in and be a DH. We are not going to see Jose Leclerc, Corey Kluber, or Danny Santana the rest of the year. And really not a surprise there. I think that I think that with Danny, when you have a kind of a re-aggravation or an aggravation of a pre-existing injury, it's just not it's not worth pushing, especially, you look at where the team is in the standings. One thing that was also said of interest is that the Rangers are going to really focus on the young guys and that Elvis is not going to be an everyday player. Rugi, when he comes back probably next week, not going to be an everyday player. Doesn't mean they're not going to play, but there is going to be more of a mix of young guys into the lineup. Again, any questions you have, I'm going to try and answer all of them. We got people on Facebook and on YouTube. From Reagan, thoughts on Rob Manfred. Reagan, I really don't know enough of what decisions he's capable of making versus what decisions require ownership approval. What I'll tell you is I think this is a really pivotal stretch of time for Major League Baseball with the labor agreement, the collective bargaining agreement expiring after next season. And also just, you got other sports that seem to be growing. Baseball's not growing. I mean, I think the bottom line, the numbers, the financials are favorable, but how can you better market players? How can you improve the product on the field? And I think that, this is going to be a part of his legacy, his ability to, or perhaps not to do that. And, I'm looking forward to seeing what sort of changes and implementations are made. Mason wants to know if I think Josh Young is going to get a call up. So I do, but I'm not as confident in him as I am in, say, a guy like Sherten Apostle, just because Sherten's already on the 40-man roster, so you don't need to make any additional roster manipulation or roster moves to get Sherten up here. But I think that there's a good chance that a guy like Josh Young is up here. But that's one delineation between, say, Sam Huff and Sherten Apostle versus Josh Young. Huff and Apostle on the 40-man roster, Young not yet, and they don't necessarily need to put him on the 40-man roster right away. From Adrian, does Sam Huff get called up this year? So kind of, to build off of that, Adrian, I think so. And the fact that he's on the 40 certainly helps his chances. And then Mason, kind of to put a bow on that, would you call up Sam or Josh, or would you just wait till the spring? I think if, with Sam, if you think he's ready, if you think Josh is ready and you can, make use of that 40-man spot, you're not going to just, make a move that you don't want to have to make. Yeah, why not? As long as you don't think that they're just going to be drowning in major league pitching. As long as you think that they can keep their head above water. And that, if they hit 200, that's fine. I'm not expecting them to hit 300 or something. But if they can just compete, then I think that, hey, give them the shot, give them a few weeks. But I also, if they don't get called up, I imagine some people are going to be outraged, like, why are you not calling these guys up? But I don't think that if you don't call them up, there's really like a big loss. I think it would just be exciting for them to get that opportunity. But I don't know that it's like some big bad mistake if you don't call them up, especially with Young, with some of the roster decisions attached to that. Reagan wants to know, is Apostle a plus power guy? He's definitely got that potential, yes. Is he a 40 home run power guy? I don't know. And listen, I don't know to what degree he's, an everyday player offensively or what it looks like. Right now, I think there's some swing and miss, improved plate discipline, but he is a guy who does have the ability to hit for power. All right, got some people on Facebook. Let's scroll up here. Grayson, what's up? Andy, getting a look at the younger guys, an excellent decision. I agree. Brian, question about the ownership group. Brian, I just don't know. I really don't know a whole lot about what goes on and what doesn't. But if the ownership group is willing to commit to helping this team win, then that's awesome. But I just don't know. That's one of those things that's so tough to speak on. As far as what decisions they make, what they don't make. They help bring this beautiful new facility. And hopefully they can help bring in some big name free agents here in subsequent off seasons. And that's one of the things on the post game show. We'll continue to go through the top 25 free agents for the upcoming off season, and we're grouping them into 4 categories. Category 1 is I don't want to touch him no matter what. Category 2 is if this player kind of falls in a price point below what you'd expect market to be, then all right, I'll jump on it. Category 3 is if he's going to get what the market dictates, okay, I'd be interested. And then category 4 is I'm going to go above and beyond, and I'm going to really, I'd get into a bidding war for this player. So we'll continue to do that on the post game. Andy, thoughts on JD's job security or contract extension? I think that I don't think any job. I don't think like you're going to see a change the GM spot or the manager spot after this year. It's such a funky year. I think that ownership is committed to letting John Daniels and his team try and get this rebuild to where we want it to go. And I don't know that they've quite given up on that yet. I don't know what ownership thinks or what conversations are had, but my guess is there's not going to be changes there. And I know this is a controversial take, but especially after the trade deadline, I don't think that getting rid of the GM is the move that's going to get this thing going. I think there are other things that need to take place. I think they've got the right general manager in place to get them back to where they want to go. All right. Andy, are you surprised with most of the players traded away? The return is much. Well, the return wasn't mostly international pool money. The 2 guys they got from Oakland could be guys who contribute in some way, and then players to be named later on the rest of the deals because those guys probably aren't in the 60-man camp and can't be identified yet. Just like the Oakland guys technically can't be identified. It was just beat writers found out. But if you think about who they traded, they didn't really trade anyone of value to get anything of great value. Todd Frazier isn't a guy that is going to bring back a ton. Robinson Chirino, same thing. So. No, if anything, I was surprised they were able to get the caliber of prospects they did from Oakland because, Mike Minor's an expiring contract who has not pitched well. But, they got at least something, which who knows how that, will play out. Cordell, World Series pick. Well, the Dodgers to me right now are the best team in baseball. In the American League side, I'm not, Tampa Bay's been great, but not going to pick them to win the AL. If New York can get healthy, them. Otherwise, I'm going to go with Oakland. Andy would love a Padres versus A's World Series. I root very much for the San Diego Padres and would love nothing more for them to make it to the World Series. All right, got more questions here from YouTube. Again, YouTube, you go to my channel, youtube.com/SandlerJ1 or the 105.3 The Fan Facebook page. Either way, whatever works best. Just happy to talk to you all. Adrian, do you know how the injured prospects are doing? I have hope for Cole Reagans, Hans Kraus fully recovered. I know in Cole Winn in Cole Winn's class, other pitchers got injured. So, it's tough to know, Adrian, the up-to-dates just because there's no season and no benchmarks for us to measure against. I know Hans Kraus has been throwing off mounds. Cole Reagans, I think, is just recovering. And making sure his arm's in good shape for next year. Cole Winn's a part of the alternate site team, so he appears to be healthy. But other than it, just like the Chris Cease and guys like it's just so tough to know if they're not a part of the alternate site because they're on their programs, and we just don't have the ability to interact with as many people because of the pandemic. Mason, what's the team's core future? I feel like this team doesn't have an identity or a future core at the moment. Thoughts? Well. At the big league level, Mason, I wouldn't disagree. I think that Leody Taveras could certainly be a part of that on the position player side. But, it seems like with all the conversations about Joey, it's tough to include him with the idea that he's a free agent in 2 years. I think, the hope is that some of the guys who are coming up through the system, a guy like Josh Young can be a part of that, a guy like Ricky Vanasco, Hans Kraus, Cole Winn, on the mound. joining, forces with Colby Allard. But I think that's, I guess if you're looking for the Kyle Lewis of the Rangers, they don't have one right now. And I think that's, that's something they're efforting to come up with, as a guy that, a bat that you can point to and say, yeah, this is the guy, like the next wave. This is him. He's a part of that. And he's going to be like the guy. I think Leote, it could be a very good player for several years. I don't know if you look at him and say, we're going to build a lineup around that guy. And I don't know, who that guy is at this point. From Reagan, should I trade Lance Lynn, Walker Buehler, and Michael Brantley for Mookie in an 8-team 5 keepers league? Well, Reagan, I don't know how to answer that without looking at the rest of your roster and how long you get to keep these keepers for. But to me, if you're looking long term, you're basically asking, do I like Mookie better than Walker Buehler? You might take an immediate hit there, but if you don't feel like Mookie and an outfielder is superfluous, then if I'm looking Mookie versus Buehler, I go Mookie. Let's see, from Reagan, in the alternate training side, do they just play inter squads all day? Well, actually, they don't even really have enough guys to just play inter squads all day. They recreate a competitive environment, but it's not like they're doing what the team was doing during summer camp. They have live BP sessions and sim games, but they're not doing necessarily 9 guys aside a ton. Now they are doing it some, but I don't think it's like every day is just an inter squad. A lot of drill work, bullpens, live BP, stuff like that. Hey, Kay, Adrian, do you think Joey's wrist is still bothering him? I don't think so. I don't think he would use that as an excuse, so I'm not going to use that as an excuse. I just think he's gotten off to a rough start, and this is the weird part of 2020. This ultimately right now for Joey is about 1/5 of the season, for a 162 game year. And we all know how streaky he is, and he's going to have 1/5 of the season, 20% of the season stretches where he struggles. So it's so tough to judge because we don't get the other 4/5 to really figure out what this season would look like. But of what we have, he hasn't produced at a level that I think he wants or anyone would have won. Mason, do you think Chu retires at the end of the year? Does he have some juice left? Think for the team's future, will he need to step into the DH role? Well, I don't think Chu's a Ranger next year. If the opportunity presents, he said he'd like to play 2 more years, but he recognized that, there might not be an opportunity to do that. So if he retires, it's because he just didn't have the right fit. But I don't know that he's going to be back here next year just because of the direction and the push for more youth. Reagan, Luis Robert or Kyle Lewis? And technically, by the way, Robert is how they pronounce it in Cuba. I know we're pronouncing it Robert here in America. That's tough. I guess it depends on the categories. Kyle Lewis has had the better year. And it seems like the adjustments, I'd probably lean Kyle. But that's tough. All right, some more questions here on Facebook. Travis, is Odor on the team next year? It certainly is looking like that's not going to be the case. You don't take away everyday playing time from a guy you expect to be an everyday player for you the subsequent year. And I think it'd just be tough to keep Rugi on the bench. It's tough to use a bench spot on a guy who only plays one position. And, I don't know if they need that on the bench. Usually you want a little more versatility on the bench. So I would not be surprised if this is the last year for Rugi and he's not on the team next year. Any other questions you guys have? Feel free to share them. 877-881-1053. Again, thanks so much to all of you who are tuning in on YouTube. People on Facebook, I definitely would encourage you to head over to YouTube, or at least if you haven't, I'd love for you to subscribe to my channel. I try to provide some content on there for all of you. For those of you on YouTube, if you want to click that thumbs up, share the video when all is said and done, I'd appreciate that as well. Dwayne says, I don't see the Rangers re-signing Gallo. And Dwayne, I don't disagree with you. I think it's not just a Rangers thing, though. I think it's a Scott Boras thing. Gallo's going to hit free agency, and at that point, it's going to be a bidding war. And I don't know if the Rangers are in a position to invest as much money as it would take to invest in Joey when they need some help up the middle, especially the shortstop spot. That's going to be a big point of emphasis, I think, moving forward. Andy, the new core of the team will be Solak, IKF, and Leote. Nah, I wouldn't look at that as the core. Nick Solak to me is a guy that in a perfect world is hitting 7th, 8th, or 9th. And same with Izzy, probably a bottom third of the order guy. And honestly, if you look at some of the best teams in Major League Baseball, some of those guys wouldn't be starting. And so they're really nice players to have, and they're definitely players who can be a part of championship teams. But as far as your core, probably not. I think that, if you're going to look at the core, you're going to want to boost it a little bit. Travis, you think Kluber's on the team next year? So I don't know if the Rangers pick up the nearly $19 million option. He's basically been hurt for all of the last 2 seasons. And so Kluber doesn't have a ton of leverage there. I think the Rangers would absolutely like to try and bring him back and see if they can agree to a less lucrative deal. I'm not sure that Kluber necessarily has the incentive to stay with the Rangers organization. I don't know. But unfortunately, the injury really kind of changes the outlook. I think initially the thought was, hey, he has a good year, and the Rangers pick up that option. And one more year of, $19 or so million for a guy who's going to contribute, like a strong starting pitcher is not, that's not really a big cost. But I don't know at this point. It just depends on what the medical suggests, and I'm not privy to that information at this point. Mason, thoughts on Elvis's future with the team? Well, Elvis has a couple years left, but I wouldn't be surprised if maybe he doesn't see out that contract. Again, with the Rangers focusing on the youth, that tells you maybe where their head's at. With Elvis not getting everyday playing time, it kind of tells you where their head's at. That's not to say Elvis won't be the team's open today shortstop next year, but it does at least suggest that the Rangers more than ever before are considering options in which Elvis is not a part of the immediate future. And whether or not that's the case, the Rangers at the least have to consider, what they're going to be doing at the shortstop spot, in the long term, because that's not going to be Elvis. His contract is up, and right now I don't know that his next contract is going to be signed to play shortstop. He might be moving around a little bit just because it seems like in a lot of bigger bodied shortstops, they do, the playing up the middle, short, center, it's a young man's spot. Those are young man's roles. And Elvis is not that young, especially when you consider the mileage at the big league level on his body. So, could Elvis be the starting shortstop opening day next year? Absolutely. But I think there'll be conversations in the offseason that maybe at least consider what options are out there. If you could pick one person to put on the Rangers not named Trout, who are you going with? Probably Tatis Jr. That'd probably be my guy. Adrian, early prediction for the rotation next year. Oh, gosh. Colby Allard, Kyle Gibson, Jordan Lyle. I don't know. I still think Lance gets moved this offseason. Maybe you get one of the young guys like a Ricky Vanasco or someone at some point to maybe Kyle Cody's in the rotation. But, man, I really don't know. That's a tough one. Andy, could Elvis move to third? I guess he could, but then now you've got a guy at third whose offensive production, just is really weak for a third baseman. That's the problem is, right now, the last 2 years, this year and last year, Elvis is not giving you high-level defense. He's also not giving you even league average offense. And so that's why you want to move him around. Okay, maybe he moves to third, but now maybe he'd be a better defensive third baseman at this point in his career than short. But the offense looks worse at third than it would at short. Dwayne, is Tejeda more of a shortstop or a second baseman? Well, he's got a shortstop's arm, but I don't know if he has a shortstop's glove. So maybe more of a second baseman. I don't know that he for sure is definitely a part of the long term, but I think, they're trying to figure out what offensively he can do and how he can benefit this team. So I think he could grow into being a shortstop. I don't know I think you'd like him to improve defensively there, but he definitely has the arm to play short. David, will the Cowboys sign Earl Thomas? Gosh, it would be the most Cowboys move. I don't know how much that's going to help them. I guess, listen, their secondary sucks, so it would help them a little bit. I just don't think Earl Thomas is as good as the name suggests he is, if that makes sense. But I personally would like them not to sign Earl Thomas and give some of these guys that we've heard about for years some of the opportunities. I want to see more Donovan Wilson, but it seems like they love Darian Thompson, but they yes. I mean, I guess it's definitely possible. You know how the Cowboys operate. Jason, I think Vegas in 5. Unfortunately, I don't mean to be a downer, but just being real here. Vegas, Robin Leonard is one of the best goalies in the NHL, and he's been on fire. Anton Hudobin, I know, has been better than Ben Bishop, but he has not been that good. And really, the play in front of him hasn't been consistently good either. All right. How are players liking the ballpark? Adrian, the amenities they love. I think the hitters would love for it to play a little more hitter-friendly, but it's a beautiful facility and really good things there. All right, guys, I got to go. We got the game coming up, pregame at 7:30. We'll talk to you all after the game. Hope you have a great night, and go Rangers.